It's sound check. following my voice. How to use live electronics in this piece. So I don't know whether everybody of you knows what a ring modulator is. To explain it exactly, it needs a bit more time. We could talk later if somebody's interested. But the fact is that this modulator, I'm taking the original signal of the piano, and this modulator changes the frequencies of the notes. And in this piece, I'm playing a lot with the different manner how the modulator changes notes. I will demonstrate you. So first, the modulator, in fact, this is like a volume switch. It's like you would take the volume control and turning it up and down. So if you have a very slow ring modulator, it's if it's getting faster, then you have this sound as you hear at the beginning, and then it starts to really transform the pitches, because our mind changes the perception. It doesn't hear a beat, fast beating, but it hears new notes. And so this is the effect I use at the beginning, that you always have this A, then the modulator will go to the frequency of this A, and so perhaps, I don't know whether we can hear it, I tried, that you have this beating, and slowly it changes the beating to notes. Treats every note from the piano different, so he's at the same frequency like this A, so almost every A at the piano keeps the original sound, almost. This is why the tremolos and the repetition of A is one important element in this piece, and the more you go away from the note A, the more it changes the character, and when you're at the A, it's still the original A. So this piece plays a lot with these, this different character that notes of the piano get. If you have the beginning here, these notes, which are very far away from the A, sound a little bit like bells, because the harmonic spectrum of these notes changes. So that it's not any more logical. You have in every note from our music instrument where we can distinguish a certain pitch, like the piano, the violin, all our music instruments, you have a natural harmonic row. So if you have a ground frequency of, I don't know, 20 Hertz of a very low note, all the other harmonics are the double, and of this you have 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 200, I don't know. But it's always a multiple value of the frequency of the bass frequency of your note. If I'm playing a note like this, you don't have it. You have, and so for us it sounds like bells, because bells have the same situation, that you have not logical harmonic rows. This is just the technical background. And now for me it was very interesting, this piece that was an etude not only for playing the piano, but even an etude for me how to use these effects, how to use these different characters that you can create there with the piano. So you have a first part where it's just playing this region where it changes completely the sound, and then you have afterwards this part where you're always waiting. For me, this is a little bit almost like when you're in the hospital and you're hearing your heart beating. And you have at this axis always almost the original sound, it's just transformed a little bit, so that it's getting this electronic character. And you have the others which sound like bells. This is the use of this bell sound there. Then you have another part where I thought what would happen if you play a chromatic scale there, and this is this fast part. Because the interesting thing with the ring modulator is that even for very high notes, it can happen that it adds a very low note. So you have when you're playing different notes, it's sometimes adding notes at the bottom, sometimes at the top. And so you have this very, very fast passage, where in fact I just play in chromatic scales. But you hear, it almost sounds like I don't know, like a percussion group of bongos or tom-toms. Because you always have a certain low pitch there additionally. And then, yeah, this leads to an imitation out of this. So the notes which are added to these original notes, the low ones, and then this is this which always plays with this game of call and response, if you want. Then, okay, this is almost the same, the second effect, where it just is, where that returns this part. And there I just always hold these bell notes with the middle pedal. Then you can play with this bell sound. At the same time, you have the two layers. You have this bell layer and the other layer, which is doing the other structure. This kind of always strictly, continuously sound, repeating sound, which me always gives this impression of waiting for something and not really continue. And in the end, that's the first time that I changed this frequency that stops with this kind of heart beating, because here it's not so good because the piano is in a different tune, it's very low, so that changes a little bit the result of the effect. Normally this note should even be lower. If you're playing this H, you have this, would be better than C. You have this kind of heart beating, and then you change the frequency of the modulator to the frequency of this C, and it starts for the ending a kind of, for me, a kind of finale or coda. This sound which seems to fly away. So you start with the C, and the modulator always adds natural harmonics in the beginning. This is what creates this sound similar like a didgeridoo, or we know it from these parts, you know it from the spectral music. And now what happens is that you have there, when the modulator has the same frequency as this low C, it's adding just the natural harmonics of the C. And now I'm pulling it, pushing it up 1/2 note. And we see that it's changing the character. It's still near the harmonics, but not completely. So it's how to describe this? Yeah, it's becoming more and more like a cluster, like something where you cannot distinguish very well the note.
So we have no more time.
We're already at the end. Okay, I'm doing the end.
Yes, I propose now to Marina will prepare her presentation, and if anybody has some question to Gregor, it can be in the same time. So sorry, you can finish now.
Okay. yeah, just this final effect for the ending is that you're turning the notes up. So it's transforming your spectrum, your harmonic spectrum, so that at the beginning you hear more of this concrete pitch, and then it's sort of flying away, especially if you then but you heard it before. Yeah, sorry, that's so few time to explain all this. There's still a just musical form in this piece, or how the motives develop. I didn't have the time to explain this now, but do you have questions so far?
So friends, if you have some questions, you can ask.
One question about controlling the pitches and the spectrum of the sound, because with ring modulator it's quite difficult to control it very well. How do you control it? Do you have a controller there? Or?
Yeah, I wrote a program which is simulating this ring modulator, and I just set him stay at this frequency, and always if I tap, he's moving to another frequency.
If you tap?
If I tap at space, because I wanted to have the possibility to play it myself, like here, to not to need a second person which is controlling it.
And how about places where you are playing tremolo? You do it with another hand, or because I could hear there was a place that you still keep the sound and the frequency was growing.
Yeah.
Not growing, but going down
in the end.
Slow. Yes. Slightly like the sound though. You cannot do it like space.
Yeah, yes, I just say space, and then he starts to change the frequency. There you have this very interesting effect when the modulator changes the frequency, because you saw that every note is treated different, because every frequency causes another frequency. I can explain this more detailed afterwards. But so if you have already a lot of notes of what's going on, then you remodulate with electronics. But to realize this character, that once you hear like a very low note, like a heart beating, and another time you hear this kind of bell sounds. So of course our mind doesn't work like a computer and analyzes the frequencies, but our mind searches links to our life. Where do we know the sounds from? We know the sounds from bells, or it sounds like a piano. Okay.
So thank you very much. If you have any question, you can ask them later in an unofficial situation. Now we will continue our presentation.
Thank you.
Микрофон является по различным поверхностям. Можешь, наверное, да, вот, значит, слева это большой товар. На столе стоит мегафон с выносным микрофоном. Это мелодия, это, соответственно, материал маленькой части поверхности, расчески, гармошки.
То есть выносный микрофон?
А?
Ты играешь какая-то с выносным микрофоном?
Да, я играю по поверхностным микрофонам, также микрофон как бы подносится, соответственно, просто усиление синхроногения, чтобы придать какой-то разный воздух вообще восприятия. Вот. Это скринрал и все, соответственно, исполнитель. Как прежде всего вещь, которая может быть в определенном контексте уже имеющимся и привычным нам. Вот. И то, что может получиться абсолютно как бы с другой связью. И то, как она может существовать. То есть исполнитель здесь он скорее как бы находится в такой некой капсуле, когда он начинает взаимодействовать с этими предметами, которые могут сработать, могут не сработать. Это скорее как бы такая некая попытка, я бы сейчас сказала их соединить, но это скорее не будет не так точно. Но вот Кира на самом деле совершенно правильно задала в этом плане вопрос, что если это будет там мужской голос, или вообще в принципе другой исполнитель. То есть это будет абсолютно нечто другое. И, возможно, часть вещей, которые работают здесь, не получится с другим исполнителем. И, в принципе, это просто будет какая-то другая вес.
Если можно, у меня есть вопрос. Вопрос такой. Насколько для тебя, Кира, здесь важен вопрос взаимодействия органик вот этих предметов? То есть у меня просто было ощущение, что я слышу вот жизнь каждого из этих предметов, но у меня редко возникало ощущение тембральной интеграции. Насколько для тебя...
Семейство звука.
Я веду, условно говоря, для тебя это принципиально, что мы слышали это интегрированность, или если мы это слышим не интегрированность, это как-то для.
На самом деле нет, то есть, как бы, естественно, вы слышите интегрированно. То есть это могут быть по звучанию это абсолютно какие-то контрастные звуки, окей, но кто создает интеграцию? Исполнитель. И, соответственно, вещи, которыми он оперирует. Мегафон, в общем, как бы становится частью, наверное, даже наиболее близкой, чем каждый из предметов, потому что, собственно, благодаря своим физическим особенностям он как-то помогает приближать, отдалять, делать.
Ну, понятно. Я могу что-то сформулировать, просто я вижу, что когда я слушаю эту пьесу, да, это интегрировано, скажем, вертикально, но я не слышу горизонтальных реакций. Я не слышу, например, как один тембр, скажем, каким-то образом воздействует на то, что
так, ты сейчас с этим исполнителем встретиться подобного рода. То есть я практически ничего не объясняла, как играть нужно. То есть я ей показала, ну, собственно, как что должно звучать, буквально, там, не знаю, минут 10 объяснила всю партитуру, и она сразу начала играть все.
Один вопрос касался визуальной стороны дела. Макар спрашивает, насколько визуальная сторона имеется в виду, насколько для тебя важно, как это визуально выглядит, и каким образом ты контролируешь исполнителя для того, чтобы визуальная сторона вышла, чтобы не было, ну, точно останавливаться, помнишь, чтобы визуальная сторона гармонировала с аудиальной, чтобы перформативные действия не перетягивали себя, ну, вопрос восприятия.
То есть вопрос о театральности?
Ну, вообще-то, честно.
Я думаю, about yes?
Yes.
В общем, такой типичный вопрос обычно в этой пьесе, но на самом деле театральность я совершенно о ней не думала. То есть она происходит просто за счет того, что у исполнителя вау, интересные предметы, как он здорово ими управляет. Вот. И, собственно, это меня не особенно интересовало, и ну ладно, если есть, то будет.
But the character of the music seems to be more theatrical.
Да?
The character of the music was very theatrical. It was like theater, it sounds like musical theater. So maybe I just want to suggest maybe you should think about it also.
Maybe.
So it is not so important, so extremely important for you, yes?
Yes.
It is the answer.
Is there any text? Do you use some text?
You mean legend?
Voice, for the voice, text.
No, it's not text.
No, it's invented by you or the performer?
Me.
It is letters in the score.
It's artificial words or artificial vowels and
Balls.
Just a letter without
Not any sense.
yes.
Okay. Marina, thank you very much. If you, I repeat this formula. If you have any question, you will be able to ask Marina after.
So maybe I will start from the subject I choose, which is cognitive music. If you ask me what is cognitive music, I would say I don't know, but I couldn't find any other word for that, any other concept. So I choose this name, and maybe we try to get to know what's cognitive music altogether. So I will read you what's cognitive science, and then everything which is science you can change into the music. Cognitive science is the interdisciplinary scientific study of the mind and its processes. It examines what cognition is, what it does and how it works. It includes research on intelligence and behavior, especially focusing on how information is represented, processed and transformed in faculties such as perception, language, memory, reasoning and emotion within nervous system, human or other animal, and machines, for example computers. Cognitive science consists of multiple research disciplines including psychology, artificial intelligence, philosophy, neuroscience, linguistics, anthropology, sociology, and education. It spans many levels of analysis, from low-level learning and decision mechanisms to high-level logic and planning, from neural circuitry to modular brain organization. So what art, cognitive art or cognitive music could be and why it comes and why I'm interested in it now. I will refer to a mind of my very good teacher, Professor Krystyna Wikoszewska, who is one of the dominant, I would say dominant, philosophers in Krakow, especially in aesthetics. She says that after postmodernistic era in art came a somatic return in art.
Semantic or somatic?
Somatic return in art. The world of art experiences a multicultural shock that directs us and philosophers to reflection. If our cultures are so different, what is then common for people all over the world? And now this cognitive art research is divided into three main streams. The first stream is neuroaesthetics. So maybe first I'll read what neuroaesthetic is. It's a relatively recent sub-discipline of empirical aesthetics. Empirical aesthetics takes a scientific approach to the study of aesthetic perceptions of art and music. Neuroaesthetics received its formal definition in 2002 as a scientific study of the neural basis for the contemplation and creation of a work of art. Neuroaesthetics use the techniques of neuroscience in order to explain and understand the aesthetic experiences at the neural. In 2002, one of the most famous and most important Indian American actually neurologist, he formulated 8 rules how our brain perceives the art, the visual art. That's important, the visual art. And maybe I will tell you something about these rules, and then I will show you how I try to put it into the musical matter. Okay? So the first rule is called peak shift principle. It increases differences between elements. For example, in primordial art, elements and difference exaggerating. Second rule is isolation, isolating particular visual modes like shape, color, and kinesthetic. It helps to concentrate attention on the work. Third rule is grouping. Perceptual grouping helps to distinguish objects from the background and abstract similarity relations. This is especially for music. So the abstract relation with the musical matter, with the sound. Fourth, contrast. Increasing, amplifying impressions by contrast, light, contour, and color. Fifth, the generic viewpoint. The generic viewpoint. It's quite hard to understand. But it means that we should omit, as artists, we should omit unnatural points of view, perspectives, and random contour coincidences. So everything that is more natural is more nice for our brain. And sixth, perceptual problem solving, which means challenge and exercise for perception. An obvious grouping to increase interest of the audience recipient. So if something is really hard to understand for us, it means it is also quite attractive for our brain. Seventh, visual metaphors. Allusions and metaphors increasing interests highly stimulate associational cortex, somewhere here, and other complex thinking processes. Well, with metaphor it's quite hard in music, but there are some examples of metaphor in music also.
So what was the sixth?
Sixth was perceptual problem solving. And eighth, the last one, symmetry. The symmetry is attractive because it increases synchronization of processes between both hemispheres of our brain. It leads to stronger stimulation, symmetry. Okay, so I was trying to put all these 8 rules to some pieces. I've written 2 pieces strictly connected with these rules, but I will present you maybe the second one. It is the first part of my Neuro Symphony. In this first part you can hear some grouped or isolated contrasting groups of instruments, for example, and colors. And of course there is also the difference between tone and noise, where the tone comes from noise. And also a harmonical aspect as a way of grouping the elements of music, like harmony, melody, rhythm, and so on and so on. And the outcome of my research, let's say, is this first part of Neuro Symphony. I call it Neuro Symphony. But I will present you maybe the second half because it's so short. This is the beginning. It's not a research, in fact. It's just an intuitive music. The second field is an evolutionary approach. Evolutionary approach has 2 dimensions, in my opinion. The first dimension of this evolutionary approach is something that is called motherism. So what is evolutionary approach actually? This is how the music came into the world. I mean, how the human species developed music. And one of the aspects and one theory on that is that motherism, so the baby talk, the way how mothers communicate with their child after the child is born. Was born, yes. Is the way how the music developed from this kind of communication. Let's first maybe listen to what we are talking about. So the child couldn't last any longer because it was too heavy. So the mother had to put the child on the floor, on the ground, and she could do several things in the forest, like making some works or taking some fruits. And then child started to cry because it didn't have the physical contact with mother. So the mother started to sing. And that's probably that's the rest of that language. And from motherism, this kind of communication were probably divided into 2 ways. One was language, that I use now, and second is singing, which means music. But I don't want to show you any example because we don't have time for that. If you're interested, you can just talk to me later. But I use motherism also in my works. Now the second stream of evolutionary approach. The second is sexual selection. That's another theory about music, that music came from sexual selection. And the first person who said that was Darwin. So I will quote Darwin. It appears probable that the progenitors of man, either the males or females, or both sexes, before acquiring the power of expressing their mutual love in articulate language, endeavored to charm each other with musical notes and rhythm. Darwin said that in 1871. And of course, at that time, it was neglected. Adaptations must be, so sexual adaptation, we are talking about sexual adaptation. Adaptation must be explained either through natural selection for individual survival benefits or sexual selection for courtship and reproductive benefits. we have to know what courtship is, and I want to be sure that everyone understands the word courtship. No? Zaloty. In animal behavior also, it's the same like human behavior. Maybe courtship auf Deutsch. Das habe ich
I can ask you later.
Okay. So, Darwin argued that both birdsong and human music evolved as sexually selected courtship displays. Whereas his explanation of birdsong is widely accepted, his courtship hypothesis of human music has been neglected. Darwin's courtship hypothesis can be updated in the light of contemporary evolutionary psychology, biological signaling theory, and sexual selection theory. Some features of music seem to function as costly and reliable indicators of the producer's fitness, and others may have evolved through runaway process as only aesthetic signals. So till now we considered music as just an aesthetic signal. Now it may be considered also as a sexual selection adaptation. Although music is usually made in groups, like many other courtship displays, no group selection account is necessary. To distinguish better between survival and courtship functions of music, we need much more cross-cultural quantitative data on music production as a function of age, sex, mating status, and audience composition. Given that almost all complex acoustic signals produced by other species are courtship displays, this hypothesis for human music is not only better supported by music's design features, but should be considered the evolutionary null hypothesis. The evolutionary null hypothesis, which means that's the beginning of music. But of course, we can argue about that. Unfortunately, I don't have example yet of acquiring this metaphor of using music, because I'm working on it. But I think it may be very interesting to you. Okay, and the third stream of what I'm doing, or what I'm interested in, is soma aesthetic. And here I would like to refer to my colleagues. For example, Gregor said in his piece some rhythmical repetitions of the sounds are like heart beating. Yeah, that's what he thought, yes. Which means there is a need of expressing yourself or his-self by putting something very natural from our body. And soma aesthetic is actually about the body, but not only the body. So the problems are concerned in this area is, first of all, body as a central concept of philosophy, body-mind unity. So soma is used as a word combining body and mind, and it was always together in the history of human being. Body is perceptual center. Everything circulates around the body and is felt from its point of view. And emotions, that's the maybe most important point of this speech. Because emotions are, first of all, reaction of the body for emotion, like heart, breathing, skin, thrilling, a sense of lightness, for example. Second, pure emotion doesn't exist. That's what William James and Antonio Damasio say. So philosophers and neurologists also. So emotion always influences the body somehow. And the last one, the body expresses emotions into the motion, into the scream, into the crying, or any work, like work of art. So the art from this point of view directs us to multisensual and intermediate reality. musical concert is also performance. That's why I asked you about is there any visual part of your piece, because every concert of every ensemble, every soloist is also a performing art. We don't, sometimes we don't think about it, but it's really like that. And recording, audio recording without vision doesn't fit to our natural perceiving of the art. So that's why I think every contemporary music piece is like coming back into the roots of the music, and it should be combined with visual, with other senses like smell also, like in the ritual. Soma aesthetics deals with aesthetic of body-mind experience, sensation. In my opinion, in music, Soma aesthetics can concern following fields. Sound of body, so internal organs of the body, like stomach, intestines, here, heart, lungs, when we are breathing with lungs, or sounds accompany the human emotional states, like state of ecstasy, for example, hyperventilation. Playing the musical instrument is considered also as a somatic act. When we touch the instrument, when we interact with instrument, it's somatic act actually. Healing ritual practiced by Indians, for example, but not only Indians. There is, for example, music therapy. It's quite popular now. It starts to be popular. So the use of music in medicine. Dance as a bodily and facial expression of emotions. And the last thing I consider is to be moved or to be touched with something, with music, as an expression of mind. So the dance, when we are dancing, we express the emotions by our body, and when we are crying, for example, or we are very moved, for example, in Philharmony during the concert, it's expression of emotions of our mind. And can you imagine, when we are dancing, when we are moving with our body, we never are moved so that we can cry. But we can cry when we are sitting without movement in the chair in Philharmony, for example. And the music is very beautiful, it's very movable, and it moves us so that we started to cry. Because our bodies doesn't, so our feelings, our emotions have to go out somehow. Sometimes they go out here, sometimes they go out with a movement, in a dance, for example. So, according to the last point, I want to show you one of my experiments. It's kind of performance, where I used to amplify my internal organs of my body, and the sound from my organs was changed through the computer in Max MSP, the same program Gregor used, into the music, let's say. Is it the music? I don't know. You will see. So I have to find it. And maybe we will listen somewhere in the middle because it's quite long. Without any